go. Welcome to The Real Build. I am your host, Bill Reiman, your broker builder, and today I have a special guest coming all the way from Dallas, Texas. He went from barely even being able to pay his rent for a 300 square foot apartment to a top producing real estate agent with Ohlig Group Realty. He's the current president of Toastmasters in his area. Cool thing about him too that I found out, he's also a singer. He likes to sing country songs. Go check him out on his Instagram. You're gonna have to give him that one, Cole.
Yeah.
So I can see it, hear that voice of an angel there. But most importantly, one thing that's cool about him too, we got this in common. He's a father of Hank, the English Bulldog, which is one of the coolest looking bulldogs I've seen. Cole McCarter, welcome to Real Build. Happy to have you.
What's going on, brother?
On.
Hey, man. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to work with you. I've been following your podcast for a while. I'm obviously fellow RTIM member, so just being able to talk to a brother that has the same goals, values, and ideas that I have it's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, man, we've talked in the past, and I've definitely wanted to have you on the show. I think you can give a lot of value, especially, you being somewhat of a newer agent too. I wanted to go into that into detail a little bit more.
Yeah.
We've talked about it, but the first things first, man, we got to talk about that English Bulldog of yours. Hank,
Yeah.
And because you were one of the first ones that told me I got to get mine, and now that's why I got Muggsy, one of the coolest dogs I've ever had.
Dude, it's a beautiful dog. You have a beautiful dog, and that face, and you telling me the thing's only going to be 50 pounds is surprising, because that thing looks like he's going to be like 80 pounds.
Yeah.
Which some bulldogs get that way, but yeah, Hank was more of a blessing. I've always, you and I talk a lot about like visualizing and visualization. And, I always had a vision of having a bulldog that would come to my office and work with me and just be a chill dude. And one day, as you said, like I was living in a small apartment, so it wasn't really fair to have a dog at that time. But when I got to Dallas, I finally said, you know what, it's time to get a dog. You got to need some friends around, like something to love on. As a single person. So I was able to get him, and my mom, just by happenstance, had a breeder that had two bulldogs. One was sent back that actually was Hank, and then his sister had like a hernia when she was a puppy, and so they couldn't sell her either. And so I get out there, and the sister just came right up to my face. And then Hank, he turned around from me, just laid down and completely ignored me. And I was like, that's the one. I want that one. And he's just been a blessing, man. Doesn't eat things, rarely does anything bad. It's a blessing. I think when you have a dog that just loves you, as most dogs do, that just makes you laugh. I'm sure as you do, like bulldogs just have a personality that other dogs don't. Like they have noises that you never heard before. Like the tongue doesn't always stay in its mouth. It doesn't even realize it is. I don't know if you've ever had this, like, you walk into the house, and Hank will be laying in his bed, and his head will pop up, and his tongue's just kind of hanging out, just kind of staring at me, and it just brings a smile on my face, no matter how bad of a day I've had. When you go in and you see this, like, that cute fat bastard's face, it's just love, And bulldogs, I'm gonna get another bulldog. I'll get another bulldog.
Yeah, I've been tempted too. I got two dogs now. One's a pit bull mix, but it's like you said, the law of attraction's real for sure. Because since I was a little kid, I've always wanted one, and you talked about this too. And you were the one that told me about the personalities and everything. And I'm seeing the older obviously he's only 5 months, almost 6 months now, but the personality is starting to come out the bigger he gets, and the moods and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Does yours snore?
Definitely.
Yeah. So for anybody that's going to think about getting a bulldog, if you can't sleep through noise, then you're going to have to be okay with it sleeping outside the bedroom, because mine and most of them sound like lawnmowers when they sleep. Like I can hear Hank through the other side of the wall. I tried to let him sleep with me last night because I felt guilty, and I barely got any sleep. So they fart and they snore. Like those are two guarantees you're going to get out of a bulldog.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've already been experiencing that too. So,
Yeah,
but he's
yeah.
a character, man.
They'll crop dust you really quickly. They have no
Yeah,
problem crop dusting
but yeah, yeah. And like I said, I've been tempted to get another one, man. But yeah, I'm gonna let this one grow up a little bit before the next one too.
It's
So
probably smart. Probably smart. You're just now catching up on the sleep that you lost, as we
yeah,
talked about when you first got him. So
yeah,
enjoy
yeah,
that time.
exactly. So anyway, like what I usually like to get started with is kind of asking about your background. I mean, I touched
Yeah,
on it in the intro here. I mean, you came from, struggling to pay your rent. I read your background, and it's pretty incredible. I mean, you're really starting to get into the real estate and the team and all that. But um, so let's talk about who is Cole McCarter.
yeah. So I came from a divorced family, at a young age, but they had gotten remarried, and kind of just a struggle of being a kid of divorce. But my parents did the best that they could. They got along really well. Both lived in the same town, but still the struggle of trying to figure out where you fit in. At that time, grew up playing soccer my entire life, so big soccer guy. Played college sports. Um, at Hardin Simmons in Abilene, Texas. It's a small town out in West Texas. And then got into real estate just actually by just happenstance. But yeah, I played country music. Used to do open mics out in Abilene. I was more of a country boy growing up, and then once I moved to Houston and saw the city life, I traded in the truck for a Fusion, and boots for for some Chelseas, and off we go into the city life.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I saw on your Instagram too, man. People should check you out, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, that was more just happenstance. My brother used to play guitar and he was taking lessons and he just hated it. And so one day I picked it up because I was playing Guitar Hero and I wanted to learn how to play Hotel California. And so that's how that started. And so I taught myself how to play guitar and I've been playing for since I was, I guess, 14, 15. So I've been playing a long time and it's more one of those hobby getaways. I think it's important for everybody to have something that's just theirs, and that's my thing, and that's something that I like to do, and I like to share it with people. But mostly, it's to keep myself sane.
Yeah, yeah. We all have it, man. It's just that you need that getaway, especially after being in this business too. That's
Absolutely, absolutely. Learning to unplug is one of the most difficult things I've learned in this business.
exactly. And speaking of that too, so what year did you start working real estate, and what was your reason?
Yeah, so a little bit of background on that. So I grew up in a property management family. So my mom is a very successful woman in the property management field. And so when I was 15, I got started in that realm. So working in real estate, more of the apartment side, doing a lot of back end stuff for the company. And then when I got into college, I would do lease ups
Okay.
for apartment complexes. And so doing the showing apartments and all of that stuff was what I was doing and calling on people, calling on clients and customers and trying to get them to come in and rent our place. And when I got into college, like I said, I was playing soccer and I had a big dream of being a coach. I love teaching, I love coaching, I love developing people to get them to where they want to go. And I did that for several years and I loved coaching, but I hated everything else about it. When you've got helicopter parents, kind of always want to do what they want you to do. That's not always best for the kids. That got frustrating. And, to be honest with you, just the money really wasn't there. And I was looking at my mentor at the time, and he was about as top as you could get in a club level. And, their life, bless their hearts, was a struggle. And he was fulfilled. He loved to coach and do that. But what I saw with a family that at times, was having some hardships, it's not really my place to get into it, but it was just something I said, okay, is that something I want to do? And I think I would do coaching for free. I would go coach my kids. I'm going to coach a club later on, but it's just one of those things where I thought I needed to make a change. And so one day I was sitting on a park bench at this museum across the street from my house, and I was wondering, what the hell am I going to do with my life? Like, I don't want to coach anymore, so what am I going to do? And I looked up, and there was an open house at this, I don't know, six, seven, $800,000 house across the street from me. So I walked in and I looked around. It was a beautiful home, and the agent came up to me, and the best way I could describe it was the agent was like almost wearing pajamas. Just the house and the lady did not fit. So I looked at her and I looked at the house and I said, well, if she could do this, then I can surely do this. And so that was how I actually fell into real estate and got into it, just by happenstance of leaving at that bench at that time, and that agent having to be so horribly dressed and her presentation be so bad for me to go, okay, that's something I can do. And so that's where I got my start.
Yes,
That's
I
how I
mean,
fell into it.
yeah, and I mean that's unfortunately that's a lot of the way realtors are too. I mean, there's still a lot of
Yep.
realtors out there too. I had a similar. I mean, with me, obviously, I grew up in the business as far as construction and stuff like that. I never knew I would kind of get into real estate as much as I had. Obviously, building is always going to be my go-to, but
Yeah.
um, you know, I really started getting more and more into real estate after seeing the people that are in it, like you. And I see, a lot of them, especially in my area, they're wearing boat shoes and Tommy Bahama shirts and pair of
Yeah.
shorts, and just they don't they don't they don't really care how they're dressing. They don't really, I mean, they don't really have any knowledge. To me, having the
Yeah.
construction knowledge I do, and going through these houses, and then you ask them a question about the house, they don't have a clue. Well, I'll have to ask the homeowner.
Yeah.
That really started making me think too, where I'm like, man, I could capitalize on this with my knowledge and everything. I can really
Mhm.
push forward and be one of the top agents in this area if I really put my mind to it.
Yeah.
And steadily it's built and built and built. I haven't been as full time in it just because I got so much going on with construction, but
Yeah.
it's something I really thought is similar to you. I mean, it's just you see these people, some of these people. No offense to them, but it's just you're really making that effort. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a part of the game is in this business, it is the easiest business to get into.
mhm,
I mean, it's got the lowest threshold as possible. Doctors, to make the money that they're making, they have to go through 10 years of school. Lawyers, the
mhm,
same thing. For us to be responsible for a family's biggest debt, because that's what it is.
yeah,
We are helping families get into the biggest single amount of debt that they'll ever get into. And anybody can get into it for $1,000.
yeah,
And because of that, you have a natural tendency to think that all agents are bad because there are a lot of bad agents. I mean, those are facts. And so, our team and every good team is having the battle that there's people getting into the business to make a quick buck. And sadly, at times that affects us. But yeah, I mean, it's for as little money as you pay, you are the most responsible for somebody's biggest debt. And I think it's not taken as seriously as it should be.
no, and I highly agree. And I was talking to you about it, right before we started recording here, and I've had people that I personally know that said, "Hey, I'm going to get a real estate license." They see what I'm doing, but they don't understand I've been doing this for 8 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
taken me a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of hard work and
Yeah.
money and stuff like that to get to where I am, and get
Yeah.
people have that influence and impact on customers, where I got that starting to get a little bit of retention and stuff like that. But I see a lot of these people that get licenses, and it happens every time things are busy, especially down here. They say everybody that moves to the state of Florida gets the first thing they do is get a real estate license. You know,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a lot. Half of them shouldn't have one. Half of them don't know what the heck they're doing. And it's like it's just insane. And they get it thinking, like you just brushed on, thinking that they're going to make a killing, within the first
Mhm.
month of having it, but then they figure out real quick a year later without a sale or any kind of business, because they just kind of sat there, that or they don't have
Yep.
the personalities to do it, that all right, I'm spending more money than I really am making, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's humbling. It's humbling. And sadly, even though I had a certain skill set to where I could be successful, I didn't really have the business acumen that I needed. At the time, as you've seen in the article, I thought I could just continue to drink as much as I wanted, smoke pot, and just the business would come. And
yeah,
it was a very naive way of thinking. And then that first year, I'll tell you what, it was. it was a humbling experience when you go into your tax return and the government felt so bad that here, just take all your money back, you know. And I was driving Uber. I worked at a Chinese restaurant till like 4 a.m. Just schlepping tables, trying to make ends meet. But yeah, this business will humble you if you don't take it seriously. I mean, there's no ceiling to it, but there is absolutely no floor either. I mean, you can lose your ass in this business if you don't take the time and effort that it requires.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way as you. If I would have taken it as serious 8 years ago as I have been the last few years, I'd probably be really successful. I'd probably be a top agent right now. But when I first started, I was the same way. I was still drinking. I was still partying. I was like, I got a real estate license. I'm going to sell, and then you
Yeah,
learn that it's not that easy, which most people do, after they get it, because they're like we
yeah,
talked about, everybody gets that license. But I was the same way.
yeah,
You kind of look back and you're like, all right, well, I could have made a lot more money than I am now, but now I'm at the
yeah,
point too where it's no joke. It's time to get
yeah,
after it too. It's work.
yeah. Amen to that. Amen to that.
So, I mentioned you being a part of Toastmasters, which is pretty cool. I mean, obviously with public speaking and everything, I've never really been a part of that, but I've always
Yeah.
thought about it and learned about it and stuff like that. So, how has this helped you with your career?
Yeah, so I actually, now that the busy season started to pick up again, I actually ended up, I joke, impeaching myself, right? I just decided to step down recently. But the biggest reason I got into it was the language of sales is highly important. Being able to put your message, your thoughts in a certain way that is genuine to you and not sounding scripted or unlike yourself. That was my biggest thing. I've always have, and I still do, a dream and a vision of being on stage and motivating people, even within a team aspect. And to do that, you have to be able to speak clearly, and you
Mhm.
have to be able to speak well. And so that was my biggest reason for getting into Toastmasters. Now, you've got to be somewhere. Like for me, I did it for a little while, and I kind of neglected the lead gen. I was like, well, I'll just go learn how to speak. Well, if you have nobody to speak to, it doesn't really matter. And so, but for me, it was really just the importance I saw of being able to correctly deliver my message when I needed to. And I think for a lot of people, they have an idea, they have a thought process, but they're not quite sure how to get it out. And the only way to do that is to practice.
Mhm.
And just like anything, if you're not practicing how to talk to people or practicing how to speak to somebody, then you're not going to get better. And what Toastmasters is great is it's a caring environment, it's a safe environment. So you can feel like you're doing a bad job, and you might do a bad job, but they're going to help and critique you to improve. They're not going to judge you. And so it's a safe place to really fail forward and fail forward often. So
Mhm.
that's the biggest reason I got into it. And the reason I became a president was I was more voted in or kind of told to be the president, was more of just to help the others do what I was doing. And there's some people in that class that I was the president of that I honestly thought were better speakers than me. But more of my leadership style, my leadership role to get the best out of them was the reason that I ended up becoming the president. And it was a pleasure. And the community is still running, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah, and for those of the listeners that don't know what Toastmasters is, obviously it's more of a public speaking class, kind of help you learn public speaking, which is very important in any business that you're in, especially sales too. So,
Yeah, yeah, and it also forces you, like, there's one portion of it where you're just given a topic right off the top, like right off the bat, and
mhm,
you've got to talk for 2 minutes. So it also helps you with certain objections coming up, thinking on your feet, but thinking on your feet and speaking clearly, which is hugely important because if you're on an elevator and somebody turns around and says, "Hey, what do you do?" and you mumble through your elevator pitch per se, then you might have already lost a client or a potential customer. So being able to, it forces you to think on your toes and speak clearly with a defined message. So I highly recommend it. It really helped me in my business. It really did.
yeah, that's awesome. I've been considering it too. I mean, it'd be something that definitely would help me in real estate world and in podcast world too. Even though doing this
Hmm.
podcast, if you listen to episode one, it's probably, I'm sure there was a lot of ums and you
Just
know,
like Andy's. I mean, Andy's was horrible. That's why
yeah,
he leaves his on.
yeah.
You know.
I mean, you get better as you go, man. Practice makes perfect. That's in anything in life, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to start diving into it with you. Obviously this show is more geared towards the customer. I mean, there's a lot of shows out there that's geared towards the real estate agent and helping the agent. So I've
Hmm.
talked about the process with a lot of real estate agents on my show in the past. I've had on, but I want to talk about different topics with you so that the potential customer can have a better understanding of what type of agents they should be reaching out to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know you're recently a part of a team or a group.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about that. What difference can this bring to the customer experience with an agent being a part of a team
Mhm.
versus a solo agent?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, so I'm a business partner with Chris Froelich, who is the broker. I do a lot of stuff with him and for him, teeing up meetings. We did a lot of listing appointments together. I do the majority of the lead gen, helping all the buyers. But recently this year, we decided to kind of split our roles to give a better customer service experience. We ended up doing a lot of double work, which we saw as just a more frustrating than it was anything. And so we decided to kind of split those roles up. We also have an admin that does our paperwork and helps with our contracts. And what's great about her is that she's really able to dive deep into the client once we're kind of out of that showing phase or listing phase. And once we get in the contract, as we are helping our newer customers, our admin's there to really dive in and make sure that you guys are walking through the process correctly. Agents these days, everybody's really shifting at this for a long time. You look at Remax, right? The balloon sold real estate, right? If you had a Remax sign, that meant that you were with a top agent. But now you're looking at it, it's becoming, and then it switched over to the individual realtor. But what we're finding is that having a team and being able to do split the roles up to make that customer experience better has really changed the game for a lot of people. And so for me, really, if I'm going up to a listing appointment and they're saying, what's the biggest difference between this individual agent and your team, mine is going to be the delegation of work, because one person's not simply doing all of it. And if one person's simply doing all of it and all of somebody else's and all of somebody else's and all of somebody else's plus the legion, all of that, it gives a better chance of something to be dropped within your transaction. And every client's transaction should be the most important. And so with the team, it allows us to give that client a much more um, a much safer customer experience to where when we list your house or we are helping you buy a house, we know that you know that you're going to be well taken care of. Just because of the processes that we've built out, my partner, him and I spent almost a year building out our listing processes. I mean, there's about 300 steps. It looks like a flight, like a pilot, when you're going through your checklist, getting ready for a flight. That's pretty much what ours look like. And so really it's a less chance of something falling through because there's more eyes and ears and hands on the file.
Okay. Which, yeah, it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, as a solo agent, and I've done it for a long time too. I mean, it's just that usually you rely on, yeah, your broker might have a girl in office, something like that, but that's all you
Yeah.
really got, and then you're handling everything, and
Yeah.
it can be hard too, especially with somebody like me who is dealing with a whole nother business.
Yeah.
And most agents aren't, even with the solo agent that's not dealing with another business, for them that if they got multiple transactions going at the same time, if they're doing really well in real estate, then the juggle all that stuff that's where
Yeah.
the group approach or the team approach comes in the better picture.
Yeah.
In that,
Yeah.
like you said,
Yeah.
it's huge too. So,
And you also just look at from a team standpoint, like you have a team on the construction side. Why is that? Well, you want to grow and expand.
mhm,
And if you want to grow and expand, then you can't do everything on your own. It's a noble cause to try to do that on your own. And there are some agents that are doing it, but they still have an admin. They still have people out there that are doing things for them, maybe on more of a like a virtual assistant type role. But we want to make sure they work with people that still share our core values and are in sync with us, And so that's our biggest thing is if you want to expand, you've got to bring people on the boat. They got to join your party. You can't just be a captain of one ship and expect you to sail smoothly. I just don't believe that's possible.
Yeah, I highly agree. So what about you as an agent too? As you know, like we talked about earlier, there's thousands of real estate agents out there. I mean,
Yeah.
within your area, within my area alone, it's insane how many realtors there are now that are licensed. So what are you doing differently to stand out from the thousands of agents in your
Yeah. So
area?
Yeah, so one thing that Chris and I are really proud of is that we give every single listing a luxury experience. A lot of agents do their 36 photos, or in some cases, heaven forbid, they use iPhone photos. And like sometimes you see your thumb still in the camera,
You
and
see
those
my
are at any
camera.
price point. Yeah, I mean, I've seen $1 million houses with iPhone photos.
Yeah.
And that client is about to pay that agent, you know, 36 to $50,000, and you've got an iPhone photo. Like you can't spend the $500 to $800 it's going to take to get professional photos done. I find that quite ridiculous. But for us, we give the customer on the listing side a luxury experience for one. So that means we have a professional photography company come out. We have drones, we have video drones, we have a 3D tour. So from any place around the world, you can click on our listing and you can tour the house. So when we're sitting down with the seller, we can go, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we aren't limited to just, for us, let's just say Plano, right? We're not just limited to this area. Anybody around the globe can tour your house now. And when you're talking to somebody, that makes a big difference, especially in a melting pot community that is the North Dallas area that we're in. We
Mhm.
have people from all over the world moving. And so being able to give them the opportunity to not have to leave their country, their home, even if they're in another side of Dallas or Texas, they can tour your home, which gets more views, which gives you a better opportunity for your house to sell. And then really it's our communication as well on that side. We call every Tuesday, Thursday. You know where the process is. I think one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is a client gets done with the transaction and they go, "What the hell just happened?" I signed some paperwork and I paid somebody a lot of money and my house is gone and now I'm somewhere else. We don't like that. We really educate you through the process, what it's going to look like, to make sure that this transaction runs smoothly, not just for us, but just for you.
Mhm.
Because we understand that the transaction is stressful for you, and it's our job to make it the least amount of stress as possible. On the buy side, we really come from a relational approach. Every time we sit down with a buyer or a buyer wants to use us, we have them come in for a consultation, and we're going to walk them through like they were the first time home buyer. I don't care if you bought a house 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago. A lot of things have changed on how real estate moves. And so we really educate you. One thing that we do that I know a lot of people aren't doing is before we even sit down, I'm emailing you a list of questions to get to know you better. Because, for us, when we go on a tour, I know what your favorite snacks are. So when we get in the car, you're gonna have all of your snacks ready to go, right? So like you're not gonna be grumpy because we might be out there for 4 or 5 hours, right? So I'm gonna make sure you've got some water, your favorite snacks, because that's a little touch point that other people don't do. We become really relational. We don't live off a transactional mindset. We build roots in our team, and that's why last year we did. I want to say 90% was from referrals. We really want to build roots with our clients, and so that's the stuff that really separates us from a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome, man. And brushing on that a little bit too. It is you can't I can't stand when you see and even me like going through like I look at real estate personally every day and as I'm going through looking at stuff for that I might be interested and you see these photos that are dark and they don't even fit the MLS picture regulations. They're
Yeah,
little squares,
yeah,
and I've
hmm
even seen ones where their front elevations were, and this was, I mean, like this week I was looking, and they still have they took the front elevation picture with the Christmas decorations out front. So there's Christmas balls
wonderful.
You know,
Yeah, that's
like,
beautiful. Really setting the tone for the spring season
yeah,
coming
you know,
on.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's festive all year. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's like you said though too. You click that virtual tour link. One thing that drives me crazy is what you're doing is awesome, but one thing that drives me crazy, you click a virtual tour, you think you're going to get almost like a video or something, but then you just get a slideshow of the pictures.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and
Yep.
everybody does that, and it drives me crazy, you know, that
Mhm.
they do that because it's if I wanna look at the pictures, I'll click on the picture on the MLS and then
Right.
swipe through the pictures. So what's the point of your
Mhm.
virtual tour? You know, so
That's
that
a virtual tour, yeah.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
virtual slideshow.
yeah,
And for us as well is it also and the quality of the camera is phenomenal, but also it does a floor plan. So we also
yeah,
have it automatically generates a floor plan so you can go on, get the measurements, and you know what it all looks like. Now, even though on MLS it has the measurements, but a general consumer might not know where to go and find that stuff. But you click on that floor plan and it's got it all built out. So you go, okay, my furniture, my living room is a lot like that size, so my furniture will fit. So what we're also doing from that standpoint is we're also eliminating buyers as well.
mhm,
You know, so we're not giving a customer the opportunity to, well, maybe this is a house I'd like to buy. We're giving you every opportunity to go, I don't want this house. So
yeah,
any customer that's coming into our listings, they've seen it, they understand it. Now they just want to feel it out for themselves a little bit more. So our hope is to also not only attract a lot of buyers, but not even have a lot of the buyers that don't actually fit that need out. So we're eliminating just as much as we are creating.
mhm. No, yeah, and I mean, you're spending the extra money to do it because that's like you said too, not a lot of these people wanna spend not a lot of these realtors, I
It
should
ain't cheap.
you know, it's not
Yep.
at all, but for the reward on the and you're earning that commission. That's what I say is earning the actual commission. When a real
Yep.
estate agent goes out and, you know, takes the pictures with his iPhone, what is he doing for that client? I doubt he's
Yep.
advertising that on social media or anything like that. And that's one
Yep.
thing I always do too is I mean, I've been running I got 2 lots for sale. Even for the dirt, I'm advertising, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
advertising what's close to this lot, this and that. I did a funny one where I, you know, was at a golf course that was nearby this lot, and I chipped and basically chunked the ball. But you know, still it's funny. And then the ball ends up where the lot is, and I'd say it's a chip shot away from the golf course, the clubhouse,
Oh, I
this and
love
that.
that.
You know, just to be
That's
funny,
great. That's
people love it,
awesome.
and that thing's pulled in like
Yeah.
20,000 views on it, just you know from advertising on
I
Facebook
love
and
that.
so on. But I'm spending the money, you know, on a lot that you know is it going to sell? I hope it sells, but it's getting
Yeah.
the product out there too, and not a lot
Yeah.
of people are doing
But also importantly as well is if somebody that might have another lot to sell or another house to sell, they're
that.
going to look at that and go, damn, this dude knows how to sell a house,
Mm-hmm.
knows how to sell a piece of dirt. And for us, our mindset as well is we're looking for the next listing as well.
Hmm.
So, you know, we know that there's, you know, we call them nosy neighbors. I'm sure you do too. They're going to come in because one, they want to see, okay, this house is worth X. Well, what is mine worth?
Yeah.
And they're going to walk in and when they see our internal presentation of how we have, you know, we have a binder that has everything in it, every single document, all the sales disclosures, surveys, upgrades and improvements, all of that is there. And
Hmm.
so what that does is that shows them, damn, they actually have that set up. And it's an impressive thing because you'll go in there and there'll be like a little piece of paper that just has like the MLS printout and the presentation's horrible. So we make sure that you know that we mean business and we're going to provide the best customer service possible through the entire thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's like you said, that's actually the definition of going all out for the customer, and that's exactly what
Yeah,
the customer should look for in an agent and
yeah,
in the interview process too. That's what they should ask: How are you going to market my home, or how are you when with buyers, like you said, how you know you're that thing that you just said too, and I'm going to use that. I mean, doing your questionnaire and getting the information and getting to know the buyer even more because I'm good at narrowing stuff because a lot of agents too. I mean, I've had agents show my listings that they told me that it was like the 14th one. They, you know, their people are like, it's like the 14th listing I've seen. They're delusional. You know, they've
yeah,
seen so many houses they don't even remember
yeah,
the first, and that's a
yeah.
problem. You narrow it down. You know, narrow
Mhm,
down the selection. Really listen. Ask the right question. I had another
yeah,
agent on here, Sean Bates, and we discussed this too. And he was saying, I mean, it's all about narrowing down, learning what their wants and needs are, and actually cutting out stuff that you don't think they should see because it's going to be a waste
Yep,
of time. And I do that all the
absolutely. Yeah, it's like in like one like we go through like what your house wants to look like, right? So
time.
if you tell me, Cole, like I only want a one story,
Hmm.
I'm eliminating on our search any two stories.
Yeah.
Like we are not seeing any two-story homes. And so there'd be times where clients will send me a house that's two stories. I go, hey John, that's not on our list here. And I'll apologize. I go, John, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't realize that you wanted to see a two-story home. Is that important to you now? It's like, no, well, I really just want a one-story home. Well, then I'm going to ask and pick and pry. Well, then why are you wanting to go see a
Yeah.
two-story home? If you just want to go and check it out, then I'll give you the open house time.
Yeah.
But like when the agent's going to show it. But we're in the business of saving everybody time and
Yeah.
problem solving. And so what that does is that eliminates the chance, and it's a professional thing. Like you got to be professional here. You can't just be willy nilly showing people 20 homes.
Hmm.
If you're showing people, all these homes, different elevations, different, cul-de-sacs, not cul-de-sacs, pools, no pools, and they just have a super broad range. Well, then you're not asking a lot of questions at the start that are needed to provide good customer service. Because when they get in that car, they're gonna be like, damn, Cole's not showing me anything I want. I'm just picking stuff and going. But when you sit down and you go, hey, these are the 10 homes in this area that you want to go see, and you're educated on that, and you walk through the threshold of that home that you know and love, and that's the one you want, you look like a real professional, and that's what we're supposed to do. And a quote I heard a while back was from a lender, and he said, I do a lot of loans for doctors and lawyers, and a real estate agent can make more money off of one deal than what they do.
Hmm.
So you better be providing lawyer and doctor level service to make that commission worth it. And if you're not, then you should be out of the business.
Hmm. Well, I mean, like you just said, everybody wants you're working for them. They want your help. I mean, they're hiring
Right.
you for your help. More than likely, they want your opinion too. I mean, they're not
Yep.
just you're just not their key into the door. If you're a good
No.
agent, you are
Oh,
not just there to open the door for them. You're there to hire. They're hiring you to give that opinion. And I just sold a house recently, and um, because I limited what they sent me a ton of houses. I cut them all down. I said no, 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 no. This isn't
yeah.
going to work. After really getting to know them too as a buyer, I go, no, this is a waste of time. No, this is a waste of time. This one house
Mhm.
popped up on the market. I said, this is the perfect house. The lady actually flew down to see it, and then we went to
Mhm.
contract on it because I knew exactly what they wanted by asking the questions and getting to know them, just like you do.
Yep.
And they went off of my opinion. They asked me, and it was between this one or another. They go, "What's your true, honest opinion?" Because I've seen, I showed them probably total. I think over the few days I was with them, probably like I think it was like 6, 8 houses total, something like that. But they go, "What's your opinion?" Because there's some of these are nice. I don't know. And I said, "This is the
Yeah.
house," and they went with
Yeah.
what I said. So
Yep.
your opinion does matter to these people, and that's why they hire
Certainly.
you because they hired me because they know I know the business, the construction background, so on, and the details
Yep.
set out on this house, so it was worth what the asking
Yep.
was too. So
Absolutely. And one thing I want to clarify as well is I've shown people 16 homes, right? But they were all fit into the realm of what we had agreed upon,
hmm,
right? And so I'm not saying if you're showing a client 16, 20 homes and they're a bad client. You might be going to see some great homes
yeah,
that might just have some things that at the end of the day don't necessarily fit. So what we're doing is we're just eliminating as many other possibilities as
yeah,
possible with those questions. And if you come from curiosity, you'll learn. And also what I've found is a lot of these buyers are figuring it out as they go, and they don't see homes every single day like we do. And
mm,
we might ask all the right questions, but they might come to you at some point and go, hey, you know what, Cole? I really think that I do need, a one story. Sorry, John. I've been showing you two-story house. Was that my fault? I must have asked that right question. He goes, no, 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 it's not you. But I think with how much older we're getting, and we really want this to be our forever home, we don't want to grow too old where we can't get up the stairs where the master is or where the grandkids might be. So we have to be patient as well and understand that they're learning as they move through the transaction and as they're seeing homes. They might discover that, they thought they wanted more of a open floor plan. Well, after they go see a bunch of open floor plans, they might go, you know what, Cole, I think we want to see stuff with a little bit more structure, a little bit more division within the room. So it's a continuous coming, as I call it, coming from curiosity. So when I'm in a house, I'm asking them, hey, what do you think? What do you not like? And by that, when I'm hand selecting houses, which I can do now that Chris and I have kind of divvied up our roles, I have more time to be more selective. They're not getting a bunch of homes. They're getting the homes that I know that they're going to want to go see. If there's brown cabinets and they say, Cole, I only want white cabinets, they're not getting any home
Hmm.
with brown cabinets, right? And if they go, hey, I want to see this home, well, okay, the only reason I'm going to show you this is, do you have a budget to paint those white? Because if
Yeah.
we're only going in there just to see what it looks like and you hate brown, well, then what's the point? And
Yeah.
you've got to be okay asking those questions. You got to be okay asking the tough questions because you're getting paid a lot of money to ask the tough questions, and you got to be okay to kind of rock the boat a little bit to get the best out of them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem is a lot of agents are afraid to ask the tough questions too. And you can't be afraid. You just have to, I mean, they hire you
You'll
for a reason.
Yeah, you'll go broke. You'll go broke if you don't ask the right questions because you're spending time. You're spending time showing people a bunch of homes when you should be lead generating and finding that next client. If you ask the right questions, then you're not going to go broke. But if you're just being what we call a glorified door opener,
Hmm.
you're not going to be in this business very long.
Yeah, exactly. So this question, I mean, it's kind of big because there's so many agents getting into the business now. Our new agents are people getting licenses, what like we talked about. So what do you recommend new agents actually do when they're first starting out? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, me and you talked about the mistakes we made. Starting out, we didn't take it as serious as we should have. Being especially young agents too. I mean, they think they're going to get into it and make $1 million, but it's not
right.
reality. There's so many people getting licenses. They don't understand how much grind goes into it. Most think they will make, thousands of dollars and figure out they spend more than they make. So what would
Yeah.
your recommendation be?
Yeah, so for me, when once I get my head out of my ass, metaphorically speaking, what I did and I've always kind of had this in me is I always go and find the best, and I look to learn from them. And so what I did is I went to Keller Williams, which for me has one of the top training that there is. They educate you very very well. And so I got into a decently sized brokerage at KW, and I picked the 3 to 4 agents that were, had a small team or had no team, and had a lot of listings in the price points I wanted to be in, which was usually between 500 and a million. And I became very good friends with them. I took them out to lunch, asked them a lot of questions, and I said, "Hey, like one of them, his name was Joe Diasana. I go, Joe, what do I need to do to be your open house expert? When you've got a listing that goes live, what do I need to do so I can go into that house?" And I think one of our biggest struggles as new agents is finding that new business, because if you're going from a relational standpoint and you're building relations, you're not looking for that quick money, that takes time. But an open house, people are coming in and going, hey, I'm here ready to buy now.
Hmm.
And if they're not looking to buy now, they're looking at 3, 6, 9 months. And so for me is I became friends with those agents, and I just lived in their open house. I
Hmm.
lived there, and I educated myself on that area to where when a client came in after they did the tour, one of my questions was, okay, what does this house not have, which is key, not have that you need in your next home? And I've studied the market so well that when they tell me that, I can go, okay, well, that's going to be this street, this street, or over here, over here, over here. I'd be happy to send that to you. So we're asking a question and we're coming with value immediately on where they can find that need, because we're problem solvers. So
Hmm.
I've solved the problem, right? And so that's how, as you read in that article, I had some bad things happen. And that's how I made 50 grand in a month to grab all of my gear and move back to Dallas.
Hmm.
Was I just lived in open houses and I studied the market. And that's what I'm doing here. On the weekends, I live there. I mean, that's my house. I know that house. I know exactly what's selling around it. and I know how many there are. So when somebody comes in and that house doesn't fit their need, I already have the solution. I'm already taking notes down, and I'll be in contact with you on Monday or Tuesday to help you find your next home. So for me, that's the best way because one, you're learning about the area, you're learning how to communicate with your skills, and that's the best way to pick up a client that you need to buy that needs to buy now, so you can fill your pockets. Because at the end of the day, hard work doesn't pay the rent; money does.
Yeah.
Another thing that I suggest is, um, and one fatal flaw that I did was if you are buying now, I wasn't interested in talking to you. And I lost a lot of clients that way, you know. And because I didn't follow up, I might happen to see him in my CRM 3 or 6 months later and call him and be like, oh man, like I bought, right? And so finding a 3, 6, 9 month client is actually a good thing because in this business, you don't always know where your money's coming from and when it's going to come. But if you've got a client base or what we call a funnel or a pipeline of people that are buying in 3 to 6 months, then you can start going, okay, I've got 7 clients that are buying in the fall with me. It's important that I follow up with them so when they're ready to start buying, we've already built that relationship. But if you talk to them at an open house and they say we're buying in a year and you call them only from a year later, they're not going to remember you. They've seen tons of agents, tons of houses,
Mhm.
and one of those agents actually kept in touch with them more than you did. So you've got to see long-term clients as a good thing because that's where your next paycheck's going to come from. And if you just see it as transactional, immediate, you're never going to get a good foothold in this business.
Mhm. Yeah, the open house thing's huge. I mean, anybody starting out needs to be an open house. It's nonstop. They need to live in them, learn the market, know the market from like the back of your hand. It's a huge thing. But they also need to realize too that agent that has that listing is giving you an opportunity to sit that open house. Yeah, if
Yep.
you sell it, it's going to benefit you too. I don't know what you were paid on an open house. Most of the time, most agents give you a
Yeah.
percentage or something out of it. Or
Yeah, so mine was my deal was anything I took I had. That was mine, right? Now if I never really the one thing I'll be honest with people about, rarely are you gonna find a buyer to buy that house at an open house,
Mhm.
right? That rarely happens, And from that standpoint, I looked at it was, okay, if this house isn't for them, I gotta go find them something else. But what your job is to make that agent look good that you're seeing that open house for. If you're late to that open house, if your presentation's off, if you're not dressed like in a $500,000 house or $1 million house, if you're not dressed up in a sports coat or a tie, depending, you better look the part. And if you don't communicate with the clients well enough and you look all nasty, then they're not going to want to use you again. So your job is to make yourself look good, but also importantly, have that listing agent be really proud that you're in that house. And that's a big deal too. Because if not, I know plenty of agents that called me because they didn't want other agents to do their open house. So, and so that's big. So if you're not presenting yourself well, then you're not even going to have the opportunity to sit in those open houses.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree, man. It's a grind, and that's the thing that these people need to realize. No matter what, you have to put in the work. You have to figure out ways to get yourself out there. I mean, there's you can read books, stuff like that. They say, okay, you can and go to a general area, sphere of influence. Obviously,
Yeah,
everybody getting into that work your sphere. But
yeah,
the biggest thing is it's not taking off weekends and having to work every week. I mean, starting out too, especially when you're younger and you want to have fun on weekends and this and that, but real estate in general, it takes a lot of your time. And if you're not working weekends and I'm getting text messages popping up on my phone right now. It's after 6 o'clock. I mean, I was on the
yeah.
phone until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock last night dealing with a deal
Hmm.
that I'm working. So it just never ends. And that's this
Yeah,
business. And new
yeah,
people have to understand that it's not just something where you're gonna get into it and you're gonna work your typical 9 to 5 or whatever, or it's a
yeah,
free for all because they think they're their own boss and they
yeah,
make that one deal and that's it. Chalk it up. I'm good for the year. So
yeah, yeah. And that was one thing I thought. I was naive. Was you know, I'll go in when I go in. in and I'll do when I want to do it. Well, you're not, that's not how it works. If you're not structured, like one thing I learned early on a couple years ago was good analogy is Starbucks opens at the same time every day and it closes at the same time every day. If I go to Starbucks at 7 a.m. and they go, today we decided not to open till 8 o'clock, I'm going to be pissed. I want my coffee. And so it's the same thing as an entrepreneur. You've got to have a structure in real estate. You've got to have, when's my lead gen time? My lead gen time is the same every day. It doesn't change,
Yeah.
right? My afternoons are structured the same. It doesn't change. Now there's fluctuation in the afternoon to take clients on or go to meetings and do stuff like that. But the important part, the lead gen, which is finding the next piece of business, nothing gets in the way of that. That is cemented, and if it has to move, then it's taken care of again later on in that day. But the thought process that you control your own schedule and you work when you want to work, well, good luck with that thought process. I don't know a single agent that goes, yeah, I slept until noon and started working at 3, and I make $600,000 a year.
Hmm.
I don't know that many of them. Maybe later on when they have a team and that's running, but I don't know a single agent that is living that life. If they do, I would love to meet them and learn more about how they do that.
Yeah. No, exactly, man. And that's another thing too, is that in you can't have excuses in this business either. You have to
Yeah.
do the things that we're talking about. I mean, if you say, "Well, I'm not following up with this guy because he's kind of a tire kicker, this and that," what's the point? You never know. It's like you said, a few months later, he might buy something because he might see something on Zillow that alerts him or on
Hmm.
Realtor.com, and he sees it, and then he contacts that first agent on that page because you weren't following up, you weren't staying top of mind to these people, and so on. And
Yep.
I mean, I got a guy that works for me that I'm constantly pushing, because I know he's got the ability to do really well in this business, but
Hmm.
he's just got to be motivated to do it and really
Yeah.
learn and live the grind. He sees me doing what I'm doing every single day. I don't stop. I mean, I'm doing a podcast. I'm doing all this video stuff. I'm doing, I'm constantly, I drive my girlfriend nuts. I'm editing till 11 o'clock at night, but and she's like, man, you love to work,
Yeah.
and I do. Obviously, I give
Yeah.
give time to her too. But
Right.
but
Right.
it's just,
Right.
you know what I mean. It's like it's nonstop. If you are who you're going to become. I mean, if you want to be successful, and as me and being an arte and stuff like that, you have to put in the work, and you have to
Yep.
be with people that understand that you're going to be putting in that work too, and
Yep.
surround yourself with those type of people. So
Yes.
it's just,
Certainly. And one thing I also had in my notes on that part is once you're done with college, there's nobody else asking you to read a book, right? There's nobody else asking you to study. So the only way you're going to learn is by educating yourself. And that's one thing that I got out of it. One of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes, who, if you don't know Jim Rohn, he's one of the, like, he is like the godfather of public speaking. Tony Robbins was uh he was Tony Robbins' mentor, and one of the things that really changed my life when I was around 27 was he was talking about how his mentor, Mr. Schoaf, was saying, Jim, why are you not where you want to be? You're a successful male. You're a male living in America with every reason to do well, but you don't have two pennies in your pocket. And he was, Republicans were in office, then life would be better. If the Democrats were in the office, it would be better. If the sun shone more, then my sales day would be better. And he had all these reasons. And at the end of it, um, his mentor said, "Well, there's one problem. You're not on that list." And that really spoke to me because we all, like you just said, we all have reasons
mhm.
for not doing well, but you're 90% of the time the reason, right? There's, as people say, there's people that have had worse circumstances than you that are doing exactly what you want to do at the level that you want to do it at. And a lot of people ask me like what I read, and I tell them all personal development, finance books, health books, all that stuff. And they go, "You don't read for fun?" I was like, "Well, that is fun for me.
Mhm.
Reading a story that's not going to help me make money, change somebody else's life, change my own life,
Let's
that
see.
doesn't really intrigue me very much." And that's not for everybody. I get that. we're high D's and I's, and we're a different breed. We're entrepreneurs. But if we want to change our life and change other people's lives, then you got to put in the work. You got to put the time. You got to put in the effort. And if you're not self-educating, then you're just going to be like everybody else and be woe is me, and not being able to live life you want to live.
Yeah, like you said, you're getting in your own way, and that's the thing. I actually posted about that today. I mean, if I'm the only one in my own way. If you're constantly thinking you can't, you can't, you can't, well, then you're not. I mean, if you think you
Yeah.
can't, then you're going to do it. So it's simple as that. Law of attraction too, which we brushed on.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's discuss some negative things and positive. Well, we'll start with the negative that agents do, and what people need to avoid. Because obviously, like I said, this is more directed towards the customer. So if somebody's working with an agent or looking for an agent, what are some negative things agents can do that people should avoid?
Yeah. So I think one thing I kind of touched on it last time is, if you sense that they're coming from a transactional standpoint, you got to be very careful,
Hmm.
because they're seeing you as a check, right?
Yeah.
So if we're going through our needs analysis, right? And here's another thing: if your agent's not sitting you down for a needs analysis and talking about what your wants and needs and goals are for that house, that's sign number one. That all they care about is having you in a home, buy the home, they get the check, they go off and do the next thing. So if they're not sitting down and educating you, that's a first sign that they're not that interested in helping you find a home, right? And for me, if my client's not wanting to sit down with me for a consultation, I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, okay, why does this person not want to sit down and kind of go over their goals? And if that's the case, I don't do it rarely. I do it rarely, but I've fired clients because they don't want to sit down. And at the end of the day, you'll go out there and show them those 10 homes. They go, man, nothing fits me. Well, that's my fault because I hadn't asked the right questions. And if they're not coming from curiosity, I think that's something you have to look out for. Um, I am hesitant to talk about presentation because I know a lot of $1 million buyers agents that, they're in flip flops and a polo, but they have the relationships with those clients and they're selling those homes. And I
Mhm.
also know agents that dress up in suits, and they're the worst agents I've ever met in my entire life. So I try to avoid the presentation part. Obviously, we know it's important, but you got to be you, you
Mhm.
know? So, I mean, with the negatives, it's kind of hard. I would say for the listing side, it's a little bit more clear cut. If you're going on to see some of their other listings and they've got iPhone photos, that for me is they obviously don't care about your house, right?
Mhm.
They're just listing it for other reasons. See how many photos there are taken. The MLS requires 30, it can have 36 photos. If they have 12 photos of your house and you've got way more rooms than that, that's problem number two. And then also, just my big thing is, on the listing side, every agent can price your house probably correctly or give it a range. Every agent has the same access to marketing that you do, if you've got the scratch for it. But my big thing is, can you deal with me calling you every Tuesday, Thursday when the house isn't selling?
Mhm.
Can you stand me enough or like me enough and want to see me enough to go through this transaction, which is going to be at least 30 days?
Mhm.
Right? So I think you really got to find the person that you fit with emotionally a lot of the time. And so, negative wise, just look at what they've done in the past, and see what the presentation is. And that'll give you a pretty good idea of what to avoid.
Yeah, and I've spoke on this in the past too. I mean, if they're just going to list your house and put it on MLS and just sit on it, not do any kind of marketing too, that's one thing to avoid, because there is a lot of agents out there that do that. I'm sure in your area, but in my area especially,
Absolutely.
they put a sign in the yard. That's it. It's on MLS, and they sit on it and they hope somebody come. They put a lockbox on the door. I mean, I always personally like to be present no matter what. The seller doesn't even have to ask me. I always tell them I'm going to be there because I know your
Yeah.
house. I'm here to sell it. I should be
Yeah.
present. Not that realtors ask me, they're like, oh, it says you got to be there. Why do you have to be there? Why don't you just have a lockbox on it? Well,
Yeah.
I want to show you the house. I know how things work.
Right.
Usually that benefits me as far as being able to showcase the house better because I know what's going on. But
Hmm.
I don't know how many show as a buyer's agent too, because I do both. But I don't know how many houses I've shown that it was just a key box, a lock box, whatever on the door, and nobody's
Right.
there to greet me or anything. And these are $3 million plus houses.
Yeah.
It's like it's
Yeah.
insane, and I don't understand it and never will. But that's how agents are. It's crazy to
Hmm. Hmm.
me. Anyway, so what about you brushed on this a little bit? So how can we because I was going to ask about the positives, but we kind of already went over all that stuff too, and how we can go above and beyond. So let's go into this one a little bit. How can we convince, like with price? Obviously, pricing listings correctly, like you just said, is very
Yeah.
important in every market. Yeah, times are good right now too. Some people
Right.
won't want to price it high, but it's still important to have the right price to get the right attention on a listing. So,
Right.
what strategies do you use to do this? And because some people even have emotional attachment to the house, and I've
Yeah.
seen too where it was an old house, it was a tear down, it was probably worth a lot value, but they want to put a value on the house. So, how do you get around stuff like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, usually the first thing I ask is why,
Hmm.
right? And again, it's coming from curiosity. So, it's like, well, Bill, why do you want to sell your house? Well, we've got grandkids that, my granddaughter was just born. Let's say, I'm in Florida. I want to move to Dallas to be, near my grandkids.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So why do you want to be there? Well, I just want to watch them grow and help them, mold them to be, a great kid. Oh, that's beautiful, Bill. Well, look, we're looking at this house. And right now, the market's saying it's priced at, let's just say, $350,000. Let's just make it simple, and that's where we want to list it. And then I said, well, I want to do 375. Okay, Bill. Well, let's look at it this way. At 350, that's where the market says it should be. So you're going to get the majority of your buyers here, right? So that's probably the max amount of money you can get with the most amount of buyers. At 375, you might get more money, but you're eliminating the amount of buyers you're going to be able to see your home. And I know, as you said, it's important for you to go see your granddaughter in Dallas, right? Well, yeah, that's right, Cole. Okay, so if we want to do that, our days on market at 375 is going to be, let's say, 90 to 120 days. Can you stand being away from your granddaughter for another 120 days? Or should we list at 350? We have an average days on market of 30 days. Is that more important to you? And at the end of the day, if they say, hey, Cole, no, I want 375 and I'm okay waiting, then we're going to have a structure in place to where, okay, at 375, we'll list the house for 2.5 weeks. If we don't reach X amount of sellers or offers or showings, then we have an agreement in our listing that says we're going to drop the price X amount of dollars to get to where we need to do.
Hmm.
And so we kind of have a structure plan around that. But really, it comes to those pressure points. If somebody says, well, I just lost my job and I need to downsize and get a cheaper house. Okay, well, remember that every month that this house stays on the market is money you're having to spend on taxes, insurance, and then your payment. So from that standpoint, how many more payments are you wanting to make? Because if we sell it here at this price, or maybe a little lower than market value, we could get multiple offers that get you back up. Or we're going to sell the house so you can start saving money and take care of your family now that you've lost your job and you don't have that major burden that you used to have. So for me, it's really asking the right questions. And then when those objections come up, I'm just pulling those objections back. I mean, pulling those pressure points back up. I go back to the big why. And if you go back to the big why, you can have that. I've got a client right now, for example, on the buyer side, but I think it's kind of the same thing. She is in need of some credit repair, and I asked her, "Why are you buying a house?" And she said, "Well, I really want a place for my daughter and I to grow up in, and I really want to have a safe place for her to live." Okay. And as you know, credit repair is not the cheapest if you do it the right way, you know? And I called and I talked to her and she goes, Cole, I just don't know. She goes, I don't know if I can do this. It's just a lot of stress. And, I want to go out and do some things that I want to do. And, your guy's not letting me do it. And I said, okay, well, what was the reason why you wanted to buy that house? Well, I want to buy it because my daughter, I really want her to grow up in a safe home in a place that's loved on, not in an apartment where she, has to care about if she's running too much on the second story and all that stuff. And I said, okay. So remember that every time you want to go out and have an extra beer, go out with your friends, or buy the new pair of shoes, just remember that. Remember the feeling on your daughter, the feeling of being able to put your daughter in a safe home where she can grow up in.
Mhm.
Is that more stronger than buying that new purse you want? She's like, yeah, it is. Okay. Then you know what you need to do. I'm not saying it's going to be comfortable, not saying it's going to be easy, but if you want to reach that goal, to have that smile on your daughter's face and know that you did what you wanted to do, then it's going to be way more valuable than the little money that you're looking to pay right now for a purse or some other item. And so for me, I just go back to those pressure points. And at the end of the day, if they don't do that, then maybe it's not the right fit for us. And that's another thing. Not every client's the right fit for you.
Mhm.
You also have to understand that the house is listed at three. You know it's going to sell at 350, and they want to sell it for 450, and they want you to do open houses, paint the damn thing, do all this stuff, and you've got a large upfront cost because as a listing agent, you know this. There's a lot of upfront costs there, and so if you go through that analysis and the numbers don't work and that client expectations are off, you have to be willing to walk away. And you'll be surprised. We've walked away and they've called us back several months later. Hey, you were right. We're ready to list it at that price.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just gotta let the pain sit. You gotta let it sting. And if you talk too soon and you don't let it sting, then it's not always gonna come to fruition.
No, it definitely stings a lot. I mean, I've been dealing with that on a condo listing. They wanted to price it over. Long story short, over $1 million. The thing's probably I told them it was worth about 750. So
Wow.
they keep going back to the same agent. He had it over 1 million. Then they dropped it. It was over I think 800 something, or it was 900 something thousand. Now it's at like 849 right now.
Mm.
So I was contacted again. They contacted me for the second. It might have been the third time, and I said, I'll list it when you list it where I want to list it because it's a
Yeah.
condo. I mean, there's the thing with condos, and I told this to the lady, and there's partners on it. That's the problem, but she agreed with me.
Mm.
Because I was like, all condos are the same. Unless
Yeah.
they're completely gutted, renovated, they're all the same in there. Your next
Yeah.
competition is listed at 785, something like that. Why is yours better than that guy's?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he's like, no, you're right. I agree, blah, blah, blah. And I go, and his is sitting too. So it's just, you have to go through that pain where I could have said to take the listing. I could have been like, yeah, let's list it at 1 million, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to waste the time. And
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of other experiences with that too, to where I even recently said to a guy, because he's like, let's play the market. The market's good in this area on a lot. And he's like, let's list it here. Well, a couple months went by. I'm like, hey man, you're getting no traction. He's like, and he asked me to raise the price. And I was like, you're getting no traction. You want me to raise the price? I go, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead. I'll sign whatever paperwork I got to do. You can list it with somebody else. I don't want to waste my
Yeah.
time. I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
I wrote him this long email, and he's like, "Oh, geez, that was a long email. All right, let's lower it this much." So
Yeah.
and gradually, but still, it's like and lots are lots. You can just, but I'm advertising them and so on. But it's just the point, man. Is
Yeah.
you got to list right. You got to, in what you said too, talking to these people and explaining the situation. And we aren't meant to work with everybody. I deal with it in construction every day, where I just had the guy text me, and to be honest, I don't want to build him a house because
Mm.
after having the phone conversation with him and hearing what he said, how he was comparing, well, why are you so much more expensive to this track home builder that I
Yeah.
was talking to? Well, we're custom. We're
Yeah.
using all high end stuff. We're using that. I explained all that to him too. But he's like, well, why is it this? And you get with those, nothing against him, but he's like, well, if I'm going to spend 200,000 more for you, it better be worth it. And then you start getting
Yeah.
like that right off the bat.
Yeah.
You're just like,
Yeah.
it's
Then
process.
yeah, absolutely. And we had, and you're right. And those are clients that you can't waste your time on. And it's not
Hmm.
because you don't want to be a yes man for everybody because
Yeah.
you'll go broke in this business working with everybody. I call them, our buyers, ABC buyers.
Hmm.
If somebody comes to me and says, yeah, my credit's shot, I've only got like, $3,000 for a down payment. So I need down payment assistant. I need this, and this. And I want to buy here in a couple months. Okay. But if I got to go, hey man, I've got like my ideal client, my ideal client's got, he's got 2 kids, living in a $350 house, wanting to upgrade and move. He's got good credit, good down payment, all that stuff. That's an A client. So you've got to list your clients out and build a profile of what those clients are. So when they come in, you know what those are. And you want as many A clients as possible, because if
Mhm.
you're just schlepping around C clients, then one, you're missing out on the A's. Like what if you're working the 5 C clients and then an A client that's actually going to make you that money calls and you go, sorry, man, I don't have the time.
Mhm.
Well, you just lost the money,
Mhm.
right? And so you just have to build a profile and be okay. And it's hard when you're first starting out to say no. I know it's hard,
Mhm.
but it's going to be so worth it if you can just be firm in your morals and your process. You're going to get more respect out of it, because sometimes those people need to be told no to know that they're not right, because maybe they've been told yes this entire time. But when you set the expectation that if you don't do this, and this, then you can go find somebody else to work with. And sometimes that can change your tune.
Yeah, and you kind of the longer you're in the business too, especially being in construction, I've kind of learned, kind of what clients I should be dealing with and what clients I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And bringing up that guy I was just talking about, I know I shouldn't because he's comparing us to a lot cheaper builder, which I know what
Yeah.
that builder does. It's polar opposite of what we do. I know the products they're using in their home. It's select few choices. It's a track home, and they have that
Yeah.
niche. We don't. I don't touch them. And I told
Yeah.
this guy that too. And it's just you have to learn, like you said, to walk away because yeah, when I first was in the business, I had the mentality that I wanted everybody, but now me is really being involved in and knowing our brand as a construction company, we're not that company that's going to cheapen up anything. That's not our
Yeah.
brand. That's not our reputation. We have our product. We build it the way we do. It's a quality product. If you want a cheaper product, you can go to these other builders, and you
Yeah.
save money there. And I've turned them,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people away because
Yeah.
of,
You get what you pay for.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, um, what, just brushing on this a little bit. So, with buyers, how do you get them the best deal on a home? What are you doing there too? Let's go the reverse angle of this for the customer.
Yeah. So on the buy side, obviously, we're going through that needs analysis. We're asking all those
Mhm.
questions. My big thing is, we're going through the comps. We're making sure that you're not overpaying for the house. Now, I'm not one of the agents that, if the house is listed at 350, I'm not going to say, hey, let's go at 325 and we'll work our way up. I'm
Mhm.
the kind of guy that, hey, if that house is worth 350, we should offer 350.
Yeah.
Right? Because one of the things I always like
Amen.
to do is it's called paint the porch.
Mhm.
Right? So I'm gonna give the seller a win at the start, so I know I can come back later and ask for something I actually really, really want, right? So there might be a time where, hypothetically speaking, I'm gonna say, hey, like during the inspection report, we need the roof looked at, we need the AC serviced, and we need the porch painted, right?
Mhm.
Well, I'm not painting the porch. All right, cool. I don't want the porch painted. I just want everything else done. But we give them a win. So when I come back later and ask for more stuff, I go, hey, remember, look, we really wanted that porch painted and you said no to it. My buyers are okay with that. But this is something that has to come through. And if not, then we're going to have to walk away. And also one good thing about having my partner Chris, which is another thing of being on a team, is he's an expert when it comes to the inside of the home, and what things cost and how things should be repaired and the quality of all of that. And so having a good inspector, right? If you don't have a good inspector on your team that's not going to really go through the house and tell you what's wrong with it and what needs to be done, then you don't really have negotiation leverage. So having a good team around the house once you go under contract can save you a lot of money. We're also contract experts, so we know the little parts in the contract that can save you money. A lot of people look at um, the big things like the actual price, right? Earnest money or option period. Those are just things in there. But what are actually in the little incremental portions of the contract that could, one, get you out of a bad deal?
Mhm.
That's one thing that a lot of people don't think about is let's not also look about how to buy the house, but how do we safely remove ourselves from the house without a lawsuit, right? What exit strategies are there? So let's say, we know that HOA is there. Okay, so we've got some buffers that can save our client from being put in a bad situation. And so being able to know contracts and know how to negotiate on that end to extract yourself from a bad deal is just as important as knowing how to get the deal.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, no, I highly agree on that too. I mean, it's yeah, being people, and that's the thing with a lot of agents too. Is and what you just brushed on with the contract is knowing your contract and being able to help people too, and knowing the situations to where okay, if there's this, if they can get this deposit or this, it's just knowing your structure of your contract is so big too.
Yep.
But also as far as buyers too, I lost my train of thought. I had a good one, but
It happens.
yeah, I was sorry, but I mean, as far as the buyer too, it's in the negotiation process. It is big with my buyers. Like for example, I actually with inspection stuff too to keep the seller at in good standing. I also with like little things, me being in the construction background, I can take care of little things. So I'm not
Mm.
nitpicking on the seller. Okay, we need this, this, and this done.
Yeah.
Like I recently sold a house. We had an inspection. The dishwasher wasn't working. It was a brand new dishwasher,
Yeah.
and it was a high end dishwasher. There's no reason it shouldn't have been working. Well, guess what? I looked at it. The builder that installed it didn't plug it in, and I knew that right off
Yeah.
the bat. My
Yeah.
buyer was freaking out. And he's like, "Oh, this thing's no good. It's probably a warm. No, it's probably just not
Yeah.
plugged in." Or I mean, I've even fixed plumbing for one of my buyers. I was, got under the sink. There was a little plumbing issue. I just had to take off the head on the sink, you know, at the end of the sink and cleared it
Mm.
out a little bit and made the water pressure strong. One of the hoses was kinked underneath, so I replaced the hose for him. So it's
Yeah.
like little things like that that you can do, that buyers. That's why I sell myself on too, because I had I patched a stucco crack on the side of a house. We have stucco here, I don't,
Mhm.
and there was a little crack. I patched that for one of my buyers. So it was just the little things going above and beyond. I mean, that's what it's all about as far as that too, as you know, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you do the same. So let's talk. I want to go into the process a little bit deeper with you. It's important to guide customers, throughout the process too. We brushed on this, so let's go deeper into it. Explain, if how you're guiding them from start to finish, and even after the transaction too. What are you doing to stay in touch?
Yeah. Yeah. So just want me to just talk mostly on what we do after or like the entire
Yeah, the
process?
entire process. Yeah, just
Okay.
brush on it
Yeah.
from start to finish. What are you
Okay.
doing? Just so the customer, if somebody's looking for an agent, these are things too. My listeners, if they are thinking about buying a house in their area, they should be asking agents that they're
Yeah.
interviewing and so on. I mean,
Yeah.
majority of people, and that's the problem, they go with a friend or somebody that just got their real estate license that's a friend that doesn't have the experience, but experience is
Yeah.
so important. And because the
Yeah.
more experience you have, as you know too, you're able to guide people from start to finish, and then even
Yeah.
after there's always things that are going to come up because you want to stay top of mind. So
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. And also like, I get the friend thing, but for me is your friendship worth hundreds of thousands of potential lost dollars?
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
a really
And
good way to put it.
yeah, and so for me is like I said, we always have the consultation. And one thing I do, let's say you and I talk, right? And I go, Bill, when do you want to buy a house? He go, well, I'm looking to buy in like 6 to 8 months. Having you come in for a consultation in 2 weeks isn't going to do us much good because you're going to forget all of it,
Mhm.
right? So what I usually do is, and most of the time, I tell people like, here are the 3 or 4 things that you can do before ever sitting down with me, right? One, go get pre-approved. Now depending on your time frame, sometimes those approval letters will expire, right? But set a budget with you and your family. I always tell my clients, don't look at the overall price of the home, look at the monthlies, because the monthlies is what you could be paying. So if you tell me you want to stay at X amount of dollars, I can easily put together on my title sheet what that house could cost,
Mhm.
right? And so from there, Now you know what you can technically look at if we want to stay away from a lender. So now you know what homes to go look at. So go to open houses. That's my big thing. I'll give them a stack of cards. Go look at a bunch of open houses. Give my card to an agent. They'll leave you alone and let you walk around. So we're eliminating neighborhoods because what I've learned, as you've learned, with the technology there is these days, people know more about an area than you ever will.
Hmm.
Right? We have a lot of clients we have to help. So you're like, yeah, like this house, like over by that gas station and that restaurant. You're like, oh, yeah. I have no clue, but they know all of it. So what I always do, I just allow them to go explore because they should be able to. So they're going to go and set a budget. They're going to figure out what they like and don't like within a home, the style of the home that they like and don't like. They're going to go to open houses to figure out what areas they want to be in, and they're either going to have a loan approved, or they're going to have a really, really good idea of what kind of house they can afford. So when we come in for that consultation, they already have a really good idea. So they go, hey, Cole, I want to be in this neighborhood, this neighborhood, this neighborhood. So we set up a search around that. So we become hyper localized in what we're looking at. And then at that point, when after we educate them, we're walking through on our binder. I mean, it's about this thick that they take home with them. And it's from the second we get into the car to close
Hmm.
and stuff after. But then once we walk through the threshold of that perfect home, we know it's a good deal because we've looked at homes already before they sat down with me. We've looked at a couple homes together. We know what things cost. So we're not lowballing, we're not overpaying. We've seen them. I mean, as you know, when you walk through several homes at that similar price point and
Hmm.
you walk through that one and you look at them and you go, this is it. This is the one. It makes life so much easier. And so you do all of that. Obviously, our admin does a great job through contract to close. That's the next big step. Like that's the one thing that they can't do is so we're walking them through that entire process. And I think it's critical to have a title company that you work with like frequently. For me, out of 1 to 10, a title company that you work with is a 9 or 10. It's a must. And your lender that you use, you need to be using them as often as you can because it's a team that you're now synchronized with. So we have a team that's walking you through this entire process that knows how we communicate, we know how they communicate, so that closing is smooth, right?
Hmm.
And so from there, after that, we set them up on certain touch points. So like we've got closing gifts, and then a couple weeks later, we do another bigger customized closing gift that we're actually just now creating. Like so those questions that we started doing are very customized. So the gifts that we're now giving are far more customized. We're not just giving you like a closing basket anymore. We're really customizing it to you, the buyer,
Hmm.
to remind them how great the transaction was, right? And then what we're also doing at that point afterwards is we're following up every 3 6 months, a thank you card, and we're also doing client appreciation and all of that. Just from the point that we care about our clients. This isn't just a one-time thing. The lifetime of our customer is every 4 to 7 years. So if it's every 4 to 7 years, then we have to
Hmm.
touch them enough times because I can help you buy until you're, dead and then sell it. That sounds morbid, but if we do our job right, we should be helping you sell every 4 to 7 years.
Hmm.
And so from there, you just have to appreciate your clients and do events that do that. So within our second year together, this whole year we're doing big events for our clients, charitable work around that as well. But really giving back to our clients is our big thing to show them that they matter and help them out.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Because most people, and I've said this multiple times in the past, they collect the check and that's it. I mean, they're
Yeah.
gone and they never talk to that client again. Move on to the next person. How can I make that money? And it's in every business to keep touching base with clients, appreciating them, and doing some kind of event for them. So important too. Where I've been doing that more even on our construction end too, just having a go-to person for the customer service um, and having somebody that these my customers even 4 5 6 years later in their house can call and say, hey, I need a plumber, who do you recommend? Or hey, the
Right.
roof tile came out, I just helped somebody with a gutter. The house
Yep.
was probably 12 years old, she needed a gutter in the front of the house because
Mhm.
it kept
Mhm.
messing up her land, her mulch. So
Yeah.
it's
Having
just
a good vendor list important. Yeah,
mhm,
absolutely. Because that's your team too, and like we don't
mhm.
represent them, they don't represent us, but we've got guys that we trust to take care of you. And so Like we had, bless their hearts, we had a client that bought a house, and a couple weeks later, their water heater cracked and broke. But we had vendors ready to take care of them. And if you don't have a strong vendor list, then uh, you're not going to be able to help that client later on. And that's what you're there for. You're not just, like you said, close and bye bye. You
Mm.
got to be able to have a team that helps them for life.
Yeah, exactly. So, getting towards the end here, I'd like to kind of go into you personally a little bit more.
Yeah.
What about you personally? What lessons have you learned? And I love this question. I've been asking it to every single person. What lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or lives that can help us all grow?
The first thing that came to my mind, and I'm just going to go because that's the first thing. I think since it came to my head first, it would be like embrace the suck, which is one of my favorite quotes these days. We're in the slow season right now, kind of coming out of it. You're seeing money go out, and not necessarily come in, and you just have to be okay with being in the trenches. And I think in life, you're not always going to have good days. I mean, if you had good days all the time, then you wouldn't have anything to appreciate. So you've got to be able to embrace the hard times and know that those hard times are necessary for you to learn. It's just like going to the gym. If you're not breaking down that muscle, if you're not straining yourself, if you're not putting yourself under pressure, then your muscles aren't going to grow. You're not going to get fit. It's the same thing in business, the same thing in life. If you're not putting pressure on yourself to where you can learn and possibly even fail, right? It's not necessarily a failure. You're just failing forward and learning that next lesson.
Mhm.
So for me, I would say you've got to embrace the suck, because if you're embracing something that's bad, then that means you're learning something. You can either stop and go in a circle and cry, or you can turn around, fight it, and learn again.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome, man. That's a great answer on that one too. I swear every single answer I get on that is amazing and it's different. Everybody's had a different
Yeah.
answer to that question. That's why I always ask it. So I always like to ask this too. Most people don't ask it. I always ask about your past. Let's talk about your future. Where will we see Cole McCarter in the future? Who will he be?
So hopefully in the next several years, I'll be on stage. Chris and I are building something that we're really proud of, something that we want to be able to teach and educate on people. I've always had a vision of being on stage and educating people and talking to them. Our goal is to be one of the top producing teams in the North Dallas area. And so for us, is to build that empire. I mean, obviously, I want to build a family later on. And so, for me in the future, it's really just continuing to build something that we love and believe in, and building a team that's going to be at the next level. My dream is to also be in the Arte Syndicate to actually meet Andy and Ed. And that's really what I want to do. I know it's not a lot of personal stuff, but for me, as much as you know, real estate is my life. This is what I do. This is who I am. And at the end of the day, that's what I want to continue to do and give back to people.
Awesome, man. Love that answer too. Yeah, one of my goals too, being in the syndicate. So it's soon. I know that. So
Yeah, it'll happen.
for
It'll happen
sure.
for sure.
Last and final question. I ask this to everybody. It's kind of what the show is all about. What exactly do people need to look for when hiring, a real estate agent, and why should they choose Cole McCarter as their realtor of choice?
Yeah. So one, I'm not good for everybody,
Hmm.
right? I'm a goofy dude. I curse a little bit. I'm a little dramatic, but we're gonna have fun,
Hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, you just as a potential client, you got to be with somebody that you can stand being around and like being around, because this is a very personal transaction, right? And I know a lot of people say, "I'll just keep it transactional, keep emotion out of it." I think that's a naive way of looking at it. You've got people that call you at 10 o'clock at night that are crying and go, "I don't know if I want to do this anymore," and you have to talk them off the ledge. Like, you really have to be okay with giving some emotional support to those clients. And for me is, I'm there for you. I don't sugarcoat things. I tell you how it is, because it comes mostly from love. I love my clients. I care for my clients, and they're hiring me to be an honest person to them to help them succeed in this transaction. And we're a team, and a lot of people want to be yes men in this business just to make a buck and get the deal. But that's not how I operate. Because at the end of the day, I can't. It doesn't matter how much money I make. If I feel like I didn't provide good customer service, I don't sleep well. And I've even told people halfway through the transaction, we need to back out, and that was $10,000 to $15,000 that was on the line. But I knew it wasn't right for them, and that client at the end of the day ended up buying at a different time, even though honestly I needed the money that day. I really needed it. I really needed it. But at the end of the day, it was best for that client. And so for me, I put people first above me in this business because that's why you brought
Yeah, and I mean if you when you do that, man, it's only going to benefit you later on down the road, as you know, and
me on.
that's why you're on my show too. Because everybody that I've had on the show has the same thing in common. They go above and beyond for people. They care about the client more than themselves, and they're doing business the right way. And
Yeah,
100% you're doing it the right way. And what you said about meshing with your clients too, how important that is. It really is important. You don't get along with a client, it's going to be a terrible experience, and it's just not going to work out. And I've talked about this
yeah,
with everybody, no matter what business I've had on here. It's all about, working with, we get along with certain people for a reason. That's how life
yeah,
is. Me and you get along for a reason. We probably have a lot
yeah,
of same similarities, especially in English bulldogs now. But
yeah,
you get along with certain people, and then there's other people that you're not going to get along with, and you have to learn that, okay, this is going to work out. I have to walk
yeah,
away, and that's in anything in life. That's business,
yeah.
relationships, and so on. It's so important to do.
And one thing I'll end with is I'll end on like this little portion of it. But are you familiar with the DISC assessment test, the
Hmm.
personality assessment
Yeah,
test?
yeah.
So what I think as a business person in any field is having taken the DISC to know what your personality is,
Hmm.
and then having your staff take it and really understand what those are. Because when you get on the phone with somebody, you can and you study enough, you can start to pick up what their personality is. So from that, you can understand, okay, I'm a high D, and for me, the complete opposite is a C or an S.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean that we're not going to be a good fit for each other, but the way I communicate with that person is going to be a lot different than how I communicate with another high D. A high D does want me to go, yeah. So this house has nice bushes. It's got a 6 bedrooms. It's over here in this community. Well, how much does it cost? When can I buy and when can I move in? They want it quick. So just because we might not be a good fit on a personal emotional level, that shouldn't necessarily keep it from you having them as a customer.
Hmm.
It's just your way that you speak to them, educate them, and talk to them is just going to be different. And we have our staff do that same thing. So we all know how we are, how we deliver messages, how we receive messages, in the best way to keep everybody in harmony.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, that's spot on too. And like you said though before too, I mean, there you are going to get that occasional customer that you should not work with too, and you're going to have to make
Yeah,
a decision as well.
yeah,
So now, Cole,
yeah,
this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, man. I know it's getting late where you are. It's kind of dark on the
yeah.
screen right now too.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'm so glad to be on it, man. And I've always been chomping at the bit to go on it. I mean, you've got some wonderful people on it, and guys that are listening. You're learning from one of the best, and to be on your podcast has been an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. So, last thing I always like to ask you, where can people find you, connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm really only on Instagram, so it's McCarter Cole. So my last name and then my first name. That's my Instagram page, and then you can find us at ohlygrouprealty.com if you want to learn more about our business and all that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's where they can see you sing, and that's where they can see Hank.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. So I'll sing you a tune if that's what gets the listing. I'll sing. I'll chirp like a bird.
There you go.
So
There you go. All right. I really do appreciate it, man. This has been awesome. Thank you. It's been a ton of good value, and I'm glad you came on. And thanks everybody for listening. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
see you, man.